So if we take a look at this image, you can see the boy has some acne on his face, and we probably want to either remove that or downplay it so it's not so noticeable. So then you have to ask, where should I do this type of retouching? Should I do it in Camera Raw? Can I even do it in Camera Raw? Or should I switch over to Photoshop? And kind of the general rule of thumb we've been saying is you use Camera Raw for global edits and you use Photoshop for local edits. When it comes to retouching simple things like this, you actually can do a very quick, easy job of retouching using the built-in tools in Camera Raw. And you just kind of have to learn and get a gut feel for when you should switch over to Photoshop. My general rule of thumb is if the areas are pretty isolated, like if you look at the acne here, there's not a lot of complex thinking that I have to worry about. I'm not trying to remove this pimple through hair and retain the hair detail. These spots are pretty much isolated. That's a perfect job for using the spot removal tool in Camera Raw. If you're having to deal with complex blending and tones are changing significantly, the texture's changing significantly in the areas that you're trying to fix, that's probably a job that's better suited for Photoshop. So you would do your global corrections here, get the tone and texture and exposure correct in the picture overall, and then switch over to Photoshop to do the retouching there. Let's go ahead and learn how to use the spot removal tool in Camera Raw though, because like I said, this is a fairly easy job to do right here directly. Let's begin by zooming at 100%. I'll just double click on the zoom tool to do so. Okay, so we're going to switch to a tool called the spot removal tool. You can also press the letter B to switch to that. If you're familiar with Photoshop's tools, it's very similar to the healing brush. It's not called the exact same thing, but it's similar in nature. And you can see over here, when I switch to that tool over in the panels, it actually defaults to a healing type of spot removal brush. So kind of a nod to the healing brush over in Photoshop. First thing we want to do is learn how to adjust the size of the brush with our keyboard. You can use the radius slider over here on the right to do it manually, but you can also use your keyboard to change the size of the brush, the radius of the brush, by using your left and right bracket keys. And those are the square keys on your keyboard. So if you take a look at your keyboard and look for the square brackets, the left bracket makes the brush smaller, and you can see the radius changing over there in the panel over here. It's now 7. You can see it's a little bit smaller there. And I can just keep using that bracket key to change the size of the brush. What you're looking for is a brush that's slightly larger than the area that you're trying to fix. And once you get the brush dialed in, you just go ahead and click. What Camera Raw does is it automatically looks for an area close by the area that you're trying to adjust to match texture and tone and color. So you get a seamless blend of the area that you're trying to fix. The red area is the original pixels, and the green area is the area that got sampled. Now, if for some reason you don't like where Camera Raw chose to sample from, what's nice about this is you can edit it after the fact. It's a non-destructive workflow, of course, in Camera Raw, everything's non-destructive, but it's really flexible because you can actually change this source location to somewhere else more appropriate if you think that Camera Raw guessed wrong. So I'm going to very quickly just click in other regions, like here. I don't think it's a good idea to click in the center of the eye there, where the little cavity there is. So I'm going to move that to a different location for a smoother blend. And I'll just go ahead and click through. Most of the time, Camera Raw gets it right, but it's nice to know that you have the flexibility to change its mind, if you will. So you can see what I mean by quick work. I don't have to think about this too much. It's just click, click, click. I don't have to worry about isolating areas. And I'm just going to hold down the space bar to switch to my hand tool temporarily and reveal some other areas that can be adjusted. And I'm just making really quick work of this to do some nice spot removal. And this is great for removing dust spots or pimples or acne, things like this. Here's an example where I want to move that to a different location. Okay, just hold down the space bar again to move to some certain areas and keep working until I am happy with my results. Again, if you need to resize the sample, you can actually go to the edge of the green line there and just drag up or down to change the size. And again, if you don't like the sample, you can just click in the middle of the circle and move it to a different location. Again, holding down the space bar to click and drag to a different location. And I'm just doing some very quick spot removal. So now you can see why it's kind of called the spot removal tool. It's trying to guide you into when and where you would use the tool. So very quick edits are what it's really made for. Let's move that to somewhere where I'm not repeating that horizontal line. Great. Okay, I'm going to move back to the fit to window view by double clicking on the hand tool. And you can see it did a really great job. I'm going to press the letter P for preview. So there's before and there's after. Now you'll notice it's not previewing the effect of that retouch. It's not toggling it on and off because I'm no longer in that tool. So I'm going to go back to the spot removal tool. Now I see those little circle overlays. And if I want to turn those off, I can press the letter V. So that's the show overlay checkbox down here. I can turn that on and off to turn off the little circles. And then pressing the letter P will toggle the before and after of the actual retouching. So you have to have that tool selected to actually be able to preview the before and after of the effects of that tool. And that makes sense. That's very consistent with having the panel chosen, like the basic panel or the detail panel and so forth, to be able to toggle the preview and before and after of the effects of edits you made in that panel. So there you have it, the spot removal tool. It's very flexible, very easy to use, and it's perfect for edits like this. Let's go back to the after preview by pressing the letter P. It's a very quick way to do quick portrait retouching or any sort of spot removal in your particular images.